You've all been waiting a long time for this, and you haven't heard from me in a while, but I want to tell you we've been working extremely hard. We finally finished the Ranger, and here it is. There you go. Check it out. That's pretty badass, okay? So I want to thank all of our sponsors, you know, the bunk people, the battery people. But anyway, at the end of the day, look at that. Okay, so unfortunately we didn't get as much footage on this as we would have liked. I had a hummingbird rep in this morning working on Brian Robinson's graph situation. So it kind of, you know how that goes when you got people in backwards and forwards, so we finally just shut down the camera. But this is what we was working on, and this is how I want to get this all over my hands and I'm not going to be happy. But this is our practice lid. Practice lid. Right here. So, this is honeycomb, which we've talked to you about before. This isn't really the stuff I wanted. I went to the hardware store. I was hoping to get the straight PVC 90 half-inch. I couldn't get it for some reason, or I was looking in the wrong place. But I went with what we got. We got some 7/16ths, and then in this area here we put wood. Well, we need wood here because that's what we're going to be screwing into to keep the lids on. Obviously this is going to be epoxied, and it's also going to be glassed over, etc. These edges, this edge here, this edge here, this edge here is the honeycomb. We're going to have to work on better ways to cut the honeycomb. It's an interesting thing to cut. It'll cut, and then there'll be a gap, and then it'll cut. So it's something that we're going to have to work on. We actually tried the saw back there, and it somewhat works, but not probably the best way. So that's something, as we learn, we'll share it with you, the best way to get it cut up. So we have honeycomb here, honeycomb here, honeycomb here. We put wood here and here because we need a radius. And the honeycomb doesn't really make a good radius. So I guess if it's thin enough, it will. So what we're going to do is we put the compound in to put the radius in here. I got to work on practicing doing that. We used our spatula thing, and it's the epoxy with the glass
just
thickener in it. So we have the radius in the corner, and we're going to let this dry up, and then we're going to clean it up. We still probably need to put some along these top areas to fill in these gaps. My game plan, one of the things you've got to be careful about the honeycomb situation is this. You've got to kind of put equal amounts on both sides. So what we're going to have to do is glass the one side and then come back and glass the second side fairly fast. And the reason for that is we don't want the glass pulling it in one direction or the other. I don't know if this will end up being the lid. Who knows? It's not as perfect as I would like, but I think for a first attempt, I think it's turned out really well. And as we continue to learn, there's always things you'll do a little bit better, or try to make things work a little bit better. But we're obviously going to glass this up and kind of do an install in the boat. We changed, this kind of got screwed up this morning because we changed this up so you guys didn't have to watch us sand and put more glass on the boat. And then the hummingbird guy arrived and that kind of messed up it. So we'll probably maybe insert some photographs, I don't know. But the other thing that came up was, and give me a minute. So one of the suggestions was, why have we not gone with a metal lid? We have the ability to make metal lids. It would be easiest way for us to go and the quickest way out. There's no doubt about it. There's nothing wrong with metal lids. And as you can see, here's a selection. These happen to be battery trays. These don't happen to be lids, but it's basically the same principle, right? Except for obviously we'd have holes, etc. So we have the ability to make our own metal lids. I'm not opposed to it, but going back to the purpose of this build is to learn new things. And I can assure you personally, as time goes on, you're going to see more and more carbon fiber type materials in boats as they become more economical. And that will happen over time. The cost of carbon fiber has come down dramatically. And I believe it will continue to come down, and you will then see carbon fiber even used more and more in these boats. So the idea for us is to learn how to do this and improve our own skills, etc. And we can work on metal all day long. There's nothing to us. This is new to us. This is actually, I've watched people do similar things, and I'm amazed at their talent, because quite honestly, this is like somebody icing a cake and wedding cake and it coming out perfect. And if I was to do it, it would look like not very good.
That looks terrible.
That looks terrible.
Yeah, it is terrible.
That looks terrible.
So we do have that option, and we'll look into the cost of that. And if that's the direction Michael wants to go, we can look into it. I think that the idea of the metal lids is not necessarily a bad idea, but I think it does kind of go against what this build is really supposed to be about. So maybe we'll do one metal lid and one like this, and we'll see. We'll do a test over time. So my concerns about the metal lids is making sure that we obviously don't cut into the fiberglass underneath and all those other things. And everybody has an opinion on it. Like I said, it's been brought up to me. I've been messaged like, why didn't you go with metal, etc. And there's nothing wrong with metal. I don't know what the cost is. I'll be very honest with you. If somebody knows what the cost of a set of lids are, I'd like to know. It's probably not quite as cheap as it used to be. Cost of aluminum has gone up. And the other thing is, like, you've got to look at it labor-wise versus labor-wise. And we'll do a cost analysis. We'll give him this size and ask him what it would take to bend one up. The thing about working with sheet metal or metal in anything, quite honestly, is the more you do, the cheaper it gets. When you're doing a one-off custom thing, it gets kind of expensive. I look back at the boat that we did, the Boston Whaler, and we had aluminum inserts made for that, and it was pretty expensive. It was real expensive. It was probably the best way to go, without a doubt, but by the time they were made, welded together, refinished, coated, etc., we had a lot of time. Even when they came back from from sheet metal, we still had a lot of prep working on. Obviously, if you're covering it with carpet, it's not that big a deal. But when you're looking at it, you can't hide anything. So that's our thought process. I'm not against metal lids. I'm not against composite lids. I'm not even against wooden lids. People, my God, people, I've never seen people get so hysterical over the fact of, oh my God, you're making it out of this. I'd love to make them out of that Coots Goots stuff or whatever it is. I'd never get that name right, but you'll know what I'm talking about. But that stuff it's astronomical. And for our builds, it's not there. Now, I'm not saying that obviously has its place like everything else does. So I know I'm rambling on a little bit here, and this will get edited down to about 90 seconds. But there are many options. You choose the option that's right for your build, your ability, and what you're capable of doing, and your wallet. I mean, that's really what it boils down to. I think that sharing what we learn and what have you is what it's all about. I think we'll knock out one. Well, unless it's too much money. I'm not going to make one just for the sake of making one and spend, $300 or $400 for the sake of it. So, and that's it. I mean, and obviously finishing it with carpet and whatever. So I think it just goes back to that situation, and everybody. I just wish people would take a breath before they start typing. I don't have a problem with the opinions. I think, why didn't you go with, it's a legitimate question. I mean, some people know that we have this ability. Some people, I mean, I've got a friend that we do a lot of work with, and he turned around and said, Chris, why didn't you make them out of billet? I'm like, you're out of your freaking mind, Of course, he's a race car guy and a custom car guy, and they're all into that. So anyway, enough of this. We'll kind of keep you updated. Sorry that we didn't get a lot of footage about this, but as I've said before, that side of the business, this is not really a business, actually. This is spending money. This is spending Michael's money. But that side of the business is what takes care of his family and pays his bills. So I hope you understand that that's what this is all about. Can't say enough about the hummingbird guy that was here today. I'm not going to say his name because he was here on a special mission to help us out, but he was extremely helpful, and I can't say enough about him. He came in, took care of business, took him quite a while, and was very, very supportive, and hats off to them. The other thing that I will bring up, and this will probably get edited out too, if you're going to a friggin' tournament, don't wait until a couple of weeks before. Make sure all your stuff is working, okay? Just don't do it.
So do us a favor, don't do it.
Just don't do it.
I don't understand that. I would say the past 2 weeks, we have been non-stop troubleshooting boats that have been in, or going to, or test fishing for tournaments coming up. And that's all of them, including you that waited till the last minute to do his. That was only going to take 2 hours. Right. 12 hours later. So that's my 10 cents worth on this. I will say, I do want to say a thank you to Brian Robinson. He let Michael and I take his boat out for 2 days. It was great. The weather was fairly nice as the day went on. It was a little cool in the morning, but I do want to say thank you to Brian for letting us take his boat out. We were doing some troubleshooting, and obviously that's the reason why the hummingbird guy ended up here. So can't say enough about that, and it was an enjoyable couple of days. Of course, the boat didn't screw up the entire time we were out in it. So anyway, appreciate your time and thank you.